Mother kept calling wellness checks on me. So, I've always suffered from depression. I was first diagnosed when I was about 10. About 12 years ago, when I was around 25, I went through a somewhat nasty breakup. I was feeling pretty rotten, so I called my mother just to vent. She didn't answer, so I left a voicemail saying, "Hey, can we talk?" and went to sleep. About 3 hours later, around 3 a.m., I am in bed sleeping. I hear a bunch of banging on my apartment door. I'm not expecting anyone, assume it's for my roommate, ignore it and go back to sleep. Like 20 minutes later, someone opens the front door and starts shouting, "Residents of apartment number, come out and make yourself known. Come out with your hands up." I repeat, come out with your hands up. I'm like, WTF is going on? I start putting on clothes, and while I'm still half naked, a bunch of sheriff's deputies barge into my room with guns pointed at me and start shouting at me to put my hands up. I'm legit freaking out. I have no clue what is going on. They tell me to finish getting dressed, I do, then they demand I hand them my phone, unlocked, so I do. They start going through my phone. I guess they don't find anything that they're looking for. Then they demand to see my meds. I had a couple bottles of antidepressants, anti-anxiety, stomach meds, RIP irritable bowel syndrome, and a bottle of over-the-counter sleep aid. All of my prescriptions were in various states of fullness, but the sleep aid was almost empty. Mind you, I still have no clue what is going on. So, they see the nearly empty bottle and then radio for EMS. They assumed I downed the entire bottle without even asking me and called EMS. EMS arrives and they start asking me questions. Asking about my meds, asking why the bottle was almost empty. It was only after EMS arrived that I started to find out what was going on. The deputies refused to tell me what was going on. EMS actually acknowledged my existence and answered my questions. They checked me out and concluded I was fine. EMS informed me that my mother called 911 and told them I was in the process of killing myself. She freaking did this all because I left a voicemail saying I wanted to talk. She didn't bother calling me back. She didn't text me asking what was up. Nothing. After all of this cleared up and everyone left, I called my mother again to ask her WTF she was doing. All she had to say was I was worried. I told her if she was so worried she should have called me back to talk to me. I also told her to never do this again. Welp, she did it again. 2 more times. Once because she texted me at 5 a.m. and I didn't reply right away, and I can't remember the last reason. After 3 wellness checks with cops coming to me with guns out and a thorough search concluding in absolutely nothing wrong, they started refusing her future requests. Yes, after 3 checks she still continued to attempt more, but fortunately got denied. Sorry for the super long post. I hope you enjoyed my story. Edit: this all happened several years ago. Thank you for all of the advice, but this is long in the past and my mother has since passed away. I kept finding the same sticker in library books. The reason was horrifying. In sophomore year of high school, I practically lived in the library. I'd go there almost every day after school to sit and read. Then I'd borrow a stack of books, mostly history, and finish them at home before they were due back. It was routine at that point. That's why I noticed it straight away. I opened a book I'd borrowed about medieval Europe and saw a small white sticker stuck firmly to one of the pages. I leaned in and took a closer look. The sticker was a prescription bottle label. The edges were worn, and it had been pieced together in 2 halves. One side was faded to a thin film, it had been peeled off and reapplied, but I could still read the text. At the top was the name of a pharmacy and a date, and below that were some details. T. Hargreaves, an address below that. Lisinopril 10 mg, take 1 tablet by mouth every day. I didn't recognize the medication, but I recognized the name. It was Mr. Hargreaves, my history teacher. I saw teachers and students from my school regularly at this library, so I didn't think much of it at the time, but I still stared at it for a second longer than I probably should have. Then I figured it was a mistake and left it there. He must have been using it as a bookmark and forgotten. I didn't want to peel it off and risk tearing the page. The second time, it caught my attention immediately. Different history book, another label, same name, address, and medication. This time it was stuck deeper into the book on one of the middle pages. I flipped back a few pages, then forward. Nothing else, just that one sticker. I remember thinking it was a strange thing to use as a bookmark. By the fourth or fifth time, it stopped feeling like a coincidence. Always the same sticker with his name, stuck on a random page. I went to the library one morning to return a book, well before I'd normally go after school, and saw him there. He was exactly the same as he was in class, friendly and relaxed. "Good to see you're reading," he said with a smile. I greeted him and we made some small talk. I almost mentioned seeing the labels, but then I stopped myself, something made me feel like I wasn't supposed to. At the end of our conversation, I just smiled and left. A few afternoons later, I was back in the library. I went to the history section and plucked a book off the shelf, flipping it open without thinking. Sure enough, there it was again, Mr. Hargreaves' prescription label, pressed flat on one of the pages. Just then, a voice snapped me out of my trance. "Hey, how's it going?" I looked up. My friend Matt was standing in front of me, hands in his pockets. Matt didn't come here often, he lived further out, on the edge of town. "I didn't know you even knew where the library was," I remarked. "Haha, very funny. I was nearby." We talked for a bit, and then I held the book up slightly. "Look at this. I keep finding Mr. Hargreaves' stickers in these books." He stepped closer and scanned the text. "A messenger asked for help from nearby towns." I tapped on the label below it, pressed flat against the page. Matt leaned in and squinted as he read the details on the faded sticker. He lives a few streets away from me." "Who knew? Why would he be putting these in library books?" I asked. Matt shrugged. Probably just uses whatever's lying around as a bookmark." "That's what I thought the first time," I said. I plucked 2 more books off the shelf nearby that I'd put back a while ago, which I remembered seeing the stickers in. "He keeps putting them in books." I reached for a book about wars. Took a moment to find the label, but I knew roughly where it was. Many families were trapped as supplies began to run out. I ran my finger across the label below it. Then I put it back on the shelf and opened the 3rd book. A few managed to escape, though most were. Underneath was the label again, in a chapter about the famine. He glanced at it, then back at me, looking mildly amused. Maybe he's just weird. After Matt left that afternoon, I sat at a table with the books I'd taken from the shelf laid out in front of me. I frowned, then shook it off and closed the books, carrying them back to the shelf. A few months passed. I still saw the labels in books every now and then, but I stopped paying them much attention. I didn't think about them again until I was talking to Matt at school one afternoon, leaning against the lockers while people moved around us between classes. "You know those labels you were talking about?" He smirked slightly. "Yeah. I walk past that house all the time," he said. "Ever since I found out that's Hargreaves' address, I can't not notice it. Weird knowing a teacher lives that close to me." I shrugged. "They have to live somewhere." Then a pause, as he glanced down the hallway. "I've heard stuff from inside a few times when I walked past." I raised an eyebrow. "What kind of stuff?" He frowned, like he was trying to decide if it even sounded strange out loud. "Like one night, I heard something scraping, I guess. And once I think I heard knocking or something, but from the inside of his door." He made a small motion with his hand, tapping against the locker beside him. Then there was a brief silence between us. "Anyway," he added, straightening up. "Probably nothing." That afternoon at the library, I found myself thinking about the labels. I pulled out a few books from the history section and started looking for them. And as I found them again, one by one, I noticed something concerning for the first time. The line of text above each sticker. A messenger asked for help from nearby towns. Many families were trapped as supplies began to run out. A few managed to escape, though most were. I swallowed and looked in 2 more books. Efforts to seek help from neighboring regions. A group managed to escape, though some were. My heart started to race. I put the books down immediately and texted Matt, "Hey, can you show me where Hargreaves' house is?" By the time we got there, it was just starting to get dark. The street was quiet, with a few distant figures occasionally walking past under the streetlights. Mr. Hargreaves' house sat halfway down the road, curtains drawn, no lights on. The same address shown on the prescription labels stuck in the books. Matt slowed beside me, hands in his pockets as he glanced at it. "Looks the same as it always does," he shrugged. "What did you think you'd find?" I didn't respond. I couldn't stop staring at it. "We should probably go," he added with a sigh. "Before he sees teenagers from his school just standing outside his house." "That's gonna be hard to explain." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, you're right." We turned and started walking back the way we came. We'd barely made it a few steps when Matt stopped. I almost walked into him. "What?" I asked. He didn't answer straight away, just tilted his head slightly, listening. Then I heard it too. A dull, hollow sound. Knock. Then again. Knock, knock. My heart started racing as Matt turned back toward the house. "That's it," he said quietly. "That's what I was talking about." We both stood there for a second, then walked back towards the house. The front porch creaked slightly as we stepped onto it. The sound came again, louder now, from somewhere just beyond the front window. The curtains were drawn, but not fully. There was a small gap where the fabric didn't quite meet. Matt leaned in slightly. "That's weird," he murmured. "I don't remember that." He pointed, and I followed his gaze. Behind the curtain, barely visible in the darkness, were wooden boards running horizontally across the window. I felt a chill run through me. "His curtains are always closed," Matt said with a frown. "Wonder why there's wood all behind it." Another knock. Then the curtain shifted slightly. Something moved. Behind it. I sucked in a breath. "Did you see?" "Yeah," Matt whispered. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and turned on the torch, aiming it through the curtains. The light cut through the gap between the boards. An eye. Open wide, staring straight back at us. We screamed and stumbled backwards. Matt grabbed my arm. "What the hell?" The knocking stopped instantly, silence. Then we heard footsteps from inside the house. We ran. Down the porch steps, onto the pavement, away from the house as fast as we could. We didn't stop until we were halfway down the street. My chest was tight, my breathing uneven as I fumbled for my phone. "Call them," Matt said. I told the police everything, the books, the labels, the sounds, the eye staring at us through the window. My voice was shaking so badly I could barely get the words out. By morning, everyone knew. Mr. Hargreaves had been arrested and the house had been sealed off. Inside they'd found a girl, she was 14, only a few years younger than the both of us. She'd gone missing around 3 years ago, from a different state hundreds of miles away. Taken, transported, and kept hidden somewhere no one would think to look. A normal house on a quiet street. Locked away in his house for 3 years. She'd been peeling the prescription labels off empty medication bottles and boxes, whatever she could find in his bin with his address on it without it being noticed. Pressing them carefully between the pages of books he brought home from the library, and would eventually have to return. She couldn't write any messages. If he saw even a mark out of place, there was no telling what he would do. So she worked with what she had, looking through the words in the books and placing the labels with his address under specific words. Underlining them with the stickers. Hoping someone, anyone, would notice that she was trapped, needed help and was unable to escape. It had been right there the whole time. I kept thinking about how many times I'd seen those labels and dismissed them as something harmless, before putting them back on the shelf. If we hadn't gone there that day, she might have never left that house again. Micromanagement isn't cheap. I'm an IT consultant. Customers pay my employer for me, or my colleagues, to work on their IT systems. It's not cheap, around $1,500 per day, but we're good at what we do. We bill by the day, which should technically be an 8-hour shift dedicated to a single customer, though in reality things are kinda fluid. I might need to email or have a quick meeting with another customer during the day and make the time up elsewhere, etc. All my customers understand this, and they trust me to get their work done / not rip them off. In 8 years, I've never had a complaint. I was midway through an 18-month project with a long-term client. We billed them 2 days a week, which pretty much lined up with the work I was doing for them. The project was progressing nicely and everyone was happy. Then they hired a new project manager. From the get-go he was a nightmare and clearly wanted to throw his authority around / show off for his new bosses. He wanted to micromanage all my work. Putting in twice daily meetings, constant emails, the works. After a couple of weeks, he decided they weren't getting their money's worth and demanded a detailed breakdown of exactly how my time was being used. Fine by me. I started tracking every single minute, meetings he scheduled, emails he sent, time spent responding, time spent logging all of this. The bill nearly doubled. His director, who I had a good relationship with, called me directly to ask why costs had suddenly spiked. I explained I was just following the new PM's request for detailed time tracking and regular updates. About 30 minutes later, we got an email saying we could go back to the previous arrangement and that the new guy had been reallocated to another project. A few weeks later I noticed his account had been disabled. My mom invited guests with kids over and told me I had to give up my room so we wouldn't look rude. I'm 23F and still living at home for now because I'm finishing a certification and saving up to move. I pay rent to my mom every month, buy most of my own food, and pretty much keep to myself. We get along okay when things are normal, but she has this thing where if guests are involved she turns into this super performative version of herself and suddenly everything has to look like some perfect warm family house where she's the nicest mom alive. The problem is that a lot of that hospitality somehow always ends up being my problem. This weekend she invited her cousin, the cousin's husband, and their 2 kids to stay overnight. I did not know this was happening until literally that afternoon when I got home and saw extra groceries and a pile of blankets on the couch. I asked what was going on and she said, super casually, "Oh, they're staying here tonight." I told them the kids can have your room. Not asked. Told. I thought she meant like, they could hang out in there for a bit or something, which was already annoying, but no. She meant I was supposed to pack up my stuff, sleep on the couch, and let these 2 random sticky little tornadoes sleep in my bed because the sofa is fine for one night and don't make this weird. I said no. Not even dramatically, just no, that's my room. I pay to live here, I have work to do tonight, and I don't want kids going through my stuff. She immediately got that tight fake smile and started with the guilt trip. So you're really going to embarrass me over a bedroom? Then it became, they're just children. Then, family helps family. Then the one that actually pissed me off, which was, you don't even use your room for anything important except sitting on your laptop. First of all, yes I do. Second, even if I used it only to stare at the wall, it's still my room. When they got there my mom had already apparently promised the kids they were sleeping in the fun room upstairs, which is mine. So now the kids are excited, the cousin is thanking me before I've agreed, and I'm standing there looking like the asshole because my mom volunteered my space to score points. I said, as politely as I could, that there must have been a misunderstanding and I wasn't giving up my room. My mom pulled me into the kitchen and whispered that I needed to stop acting selfish and do this for one damn night. I told her if it was so important, she could give them a room. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. In the end the parents slept in the living room with the kids on air mattresses because apparently my room was the only acceptable option, which kind of says it all. My mom has been cold and snippy with me since, telling me I made her look bad and ruined the visit over a tiny sacrifice. I feel like she ruined it by offering something that wasn't hers to offer, but she's acting like I committed some huge betrayal. Was I actually wrong for refusing? Wanted my boyfriend's road trip playlist played exactly as he made it? Sure. My boyfriend Evan loves making playlists for every possible situation. Grocery run playlist, rainy Sunday playlist, cleaning playlist, late night fries playlist, all of it. The issue is that he builds them like a raccoon sorting shiny objects, not like a human being who has to actually listen to the sequence. He'll put a slow sad acoustic song right after something loud and chaotic, then a podcast clip, then an old dance track, then 3 songs by the same artist back to back because he forgot he already added them. Usually before longer drives I quietly tidy the order a little. I do not delete anything, I just move stuff around so the transitions are less insane and we do not go from whispery breakup ballad to a song that sounds like a haunted washing machine. A few weeks ago he caught me reordering one of his playlists before a Saturday drive and got weirdly offended. He said I was treating his playlists like rough drafts and not finished things. I said I genuinely thought I was helping. He said, very specifically, if I make a playlist, I want it played exactly in the order I made it. No fixing it, no skipping around, no little rescue edits because you think you know better. I said okay. So last weekend we drove about 3 hours to a lake town for a day trip, and I put on the playlist he had made for the drive exactly as requested. I did not change the order. I did not skip. I did not soften anything. Within the first 20 minutes we got an extremely earnest song about heartbreak, immediately followed by a hyper-pop remix, then a 7-minute live version of a song he does not even like that much, then 2 back-to-back songs called Midnight by different artists, which made it feel like the car itself was glitching. At one point he went, "Can you maybe jump this one?" And I just said, "I thought you wanted the full vision." He gave me the side-eye but admitted that yes, technically, he did. The last stretch of the drive included 4 very mellow songs in a row while we were trying to stay awake on a bright highway, followed by one incredibly aggressive club track that scared both of us so badly he spilled iced coffee on his shorts. He has since asked if I can do the gentle rearranging thing again, which I will definitely be reminding him of for a while. TIFU by missing my international flight because I thought it was the next day. I am currently sitting in the airport wondering how in the world I managed to fuck up this bad. I've wanted to study abroad in Japan for 8 years now, and this year in my junior year of university my dream is finally coming true. Also note, I have never left the country before. I was planning on traveling with a friend, and our flight left today, Sunday, at 7:45 this morning. My dumbass thought the flight was tomorrow, Monday. I had written this down weeks ago, and told everyone that I was leaving on that day. I woke up at 6 a.m. to a text saying, "Are you at the airport yet? Where are you?" I literally kept out of bed, thinking about how screwed I was. And how mad my parents were gonna be. Spoiler alert, they were, even wanted me to just stay home because how can someone who does that travel to another county alone? I had almost everything packed already, but I had to throw everything in my room into my suitcase. Then I had to lay on it to get it to close, didn't have time to make it organized. I called an Uber and waited outside while it snowed on me. Called the airline, and the next available flight today is leaving at 7 p.m. I had already committed to getting to the airport. I thought maybe I wouldn't have to wait too long. Nope. Also, I'm so sorry to my Uber driver, who had to listen to my parents yelling at me. Hope you like my extra tip. My current plan is actually hell. I'm already at my gate, and it's only 10 a.m. I get on a flight to Houston, and have to stay overnight in the airport from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Then I get on another plane, go to San Francisco and have yet another layover for a few hours. Then I finally get on my flight to Japan, and I'll get there at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. I'll now get there after the move-in time slot for my Japanese dorm. I hope I can move in, if not I got a hotel as backup. I've never spent the night alone in an airport or been through customs before. If anyone has any tips, let me know. Now I get to sit in this freezing airport and contemplate my stupidity for the next 9 hours. I will never live this down. I'm a science major, and my dad kept asking me how I was studying science yet overlooked such an obvious detail. Moral of the story is, actually look at your flight. Edit, this is the first time I'm using a different airline than my regular one, so still learning how it functions. Due to the huge time difference between the US and Japan, I knew logically that the day I left would not be the day I got there. But that didn't register in my brain for some reason. Yes, my parents had my itinerary. No, it wasn't their responsibility. And also no to my friend and I getting in touch the night before. That wasn't their responsibility either. I wrote down the wrong day and never thought to double check. That was quite possibly the dumbest thing I've ever done, and I'm still beating myself up over it. But I will learn from this. Not an excuse for my irresponsibility by any means, just an explanation for how TF this happened. Update: my plane was covered in ice and snow. We had to sit in the plane for an hour while they blasted it with de-ice fluid. And when we finally landed, we just sat there for another hour. Who knows why, I don't. So 12 hours in an airport and 4 hours on a 2-hour flight later, I finally made it to Houston at 1 a.m. 4 more hours until round 2. Out of 3. And this is the shortest one. Update 2, after boarding my second flight, it got delayed 3 hours while we waited for them to finish maintenance paperwork. I passed out asleep at some point, and when I woke up they announced we were landing. Walked half an hour to my next gate. Now I'm waiting to board my final flight. I hope this plane doesn't get delayed too, wish me luck. Update 3, I finally landed in Japan. My flight arrived an hour early, so I got some good luck for once. Now I'm on the bus to Kyoto. It's been a wild ride, y'all, but I made it through. Thanks for all your support, I really appreciate it. And hearing your stories did make me feel better. TLDR, I thought my flight to Japan was leaving Monday, but it actually left Sunday and I missed it, leading to me spending an ungodly amount of time in various airports. I've been subscription squatting on my boss's corporate Amex for 3 years. I know exactly how this sounds. I am a parasite. I am fully prepared for the judgment, and honestly, I deserve it. But I need to get this off my chest because the sheer anxiety and logistical gymnastics of maintaining this lie have become my part-time job. For the last 3 years, I have been secretly living a life of minor, pathetic luxury on my boss's company dime. It started innocently enough. In 2023, he handed me his corporate card to set up a new recurring software expense for the team. But his card autosaved in my browser. A week later, my personal Peacock subscription declined. Without thinking, in a moment of sheer weakness and a desperate need to watch The Real Housewives, I clicked his card. I panicked for a month. I waited to be fired. But the audit never came. The corporate machine just absorbed it. So, I got bolder. I added Paramount Plus, mostly because I wanted to binge old seasons of Survivor. Then, during a particularly stressful quarter, I went off the deep end and subscribed to a wildly pretentious, high-end artisanal wine club that ships me 4 bottles of obscure Italian reds every month. I am literally expensing reality TV and Pinot Noir to a multinational tech firm. That is embarrassing enough. But the truly mortifying part is how I keep getting away with it. I treat hiding these subscriptions like a highly classified military operation. I realized early on that corporate finance departments don't flag small, random numbers. They flag spikes, and they flag round numbers. A $100 charge looks like a gift card or fraud. A $114.83 combined charge? That looks like a localized cloud server hosting fee. To manage this, I literally use a dedicated subscription tracker app. Every morning, I log in and look at a dashboard of my illicit empire. I meticulously track my billing dates against the company's legitimate software renewals. I use the tracker's analytics to ensure my entertainment stack never hits on the same day as the company's AWS bill, and I constantly calculate the total sum so it always ends in a weird, messy decimal. If the wine club ups their price by $2, I get a push notification from my tracker, and I have to sweatily downgrade my Peacock to the ad-supported tier just to keep the monthly corporate statement balanced so the accountants don't bat an eye. I am using cutting-edge personal finance technology to successfully steal about $85 a month. I know I should be apologizing. I know I should feel a crushing, overwhelming sense of guilt for defrauding my employer. But here is my final, ultimate confession. My boss makes 7 figures, he once threw a stapler at a temp because his salad had the wrong dressing, and he regularly expenses business dinners that are just him drinking scotch alone at steakhouses. So, while I am deeply embarrassed by my weird little dashboard and the fact that I'm risking my career for Bravo TV and fermented grape juice, I feel absolutely zero guilt. None. TLDR, I hijacked my boss's corporate card for streaming services and wine, and I now use a subscription tracker like a supervillain dashboard to outsmart our accounting department. Update, after reading some comments, I think doing this might not be worth it in the long run. Update 2, getting a lot of DMs, people asking what subscription tracker I'm using. Initially, downloaded Rocket Money, but it connects to the bank and could be risky, so I am using Subcut for now. If you enjoyed these stories, hit subscribe for more.